All right, so this is part 2 of what makes some music bad. Last week we started talking about the slippery slope, and one of our main examples was Lot. Lot, he had a posture toward the things of the world, and then pretty soon he was mired deeply in the things of the world, very quickly. And musically that happens too. When we have our posture toward, Lord, I want this to please you. I want today to please you. Then our music will be protected. It'll protect our music because there is music that gratifies self and there is music that uplifts God. And the age-old debate is how much can I mix those? Because doesn't God want me to enjoy good music? And then me enjoying it isn't wrong. So how much am I allowed to enjoy it before it's bad? I mean, that is the age-old. So again, doesn't God want me to enjoy food? So how much can I enjoy that? And then anything that makes me happy, right? Then pretty soon I'm on drugs and drinking booze because it makes me happy. It's the age. I was just so confused. Well, what protects me from those things? Even just good food. And limiting the good food, or even is it wrong for me to go to McDonald's and buy a mocha frappe if I don't have the money for it? If I've just been drinking too many calories, but I have a little system for going to McDonald's and buying a mocha frappe here and there, and I try to stick to my system. And I think that as long as I stay within my system, I can enjoy and I'm not displeasing God, but I enjoy it an awful lot. Is it wrong? I don't think so. I make sure it's budgeted and it's not out of control. The Bible tells me to put a knife to my throat if I'm a man given to appetite, when I'm given over to something. Now, we can be given, we're given in marriage, aren't we? Who gives this young woman in marriage? You guys are going to give yourselves to your wives in marriage. The Bible says not to be given to much wine, right? Not to be given to filthy lucre. We can be given to something. But when I'm given to God, I can enjoy things because I'm given to Him. But when I'm not given to Him, I can be given to those things that I enjoy. And those things that might not be bad, if I'm not given to Him, those things can become bad. Are baked potatoes bad? No. But if there's a baked potato bar and I eat 15 of them with everything, and I'm starting to gain more and more weight, and I'm given to my appetite, right? Then they can become bad. And so again, what protects us from being given to something that gratifies self too much? Number one, being given to God. That is what protects us. That is the protection. Yielding yourselves members toward things of righteousness or things of unrighteousness, it's that love. Give not thy strength unto women, right? Solomon tells us that, and Samson is an example of that, right? He was a mighty man, the mightiest physically, and he gave his strength to women. He wasn't given to God. He was supposed to be. He occupied a position where he was supposed to be, but he just lived in that position. All right, he was nominally a man of God, a Nazirite nominally by name, but he was given to his appetites. So that's where we're going to get in trouble musically, when isn't God? But how much can I be pleased? How much can I be pleased? Because I'm really struggling with how much I can be pleased. All right, that's where you hear this little thing the world does in music, and you go, now I like that, and I don't think that is particularly wrong. You're not a good judge of those things yet. When you're given to God, you can say, "Oh Lord, that kind of pulls me too much the wrong direction." Okay, so there's that word "given." I thought it'd be fun someday to preach a message on the word "given." Be given to God, then everything else I can enjoy. But if everything else, if I'm like, how much can I enjoy this? God, this right here, I really like it. How much can I enjoy it? Okay? Because you don't want me to be unhappy, right? You'd like me to be happy while I'm focused on that thing. Eve was focused on that fruit she couldn't have. All right? And she was focused on that. Why can't I have it? Well, I mean, intellectually, I'm looking at it, and it looks fine. Physically, my cravings, and then it's just craving for fruit. That's not bad. Now, this particular one, I'm thinking about God gave me all this other fruit, and He wants me to enjoy myself. So, and then this, I'll enjoy myself. And then it looks fine. All right? At that moment, she wasn't given to God and His goodness. She was unimpressed with God's goodness at that point. And her decision-making skills were broken. Even as a perfect woman, they were broken. And people don't understand that, do they? You remember being there? How does a perfect woman have broken decision-making skills? Well, because she relied on her perfection. She relied on her decision-making abilities when she was unimpressed with God's goodness, and decided she would decide for herself because she knew plenty. She knew more than God. All right, so this idea of a slippery slope. When you're not given to God, what delights you will take you too far. You know, we say that sin takes you farther than you want to go. How does that expression go? You guys help me. Sin always takes you further than when you want to go. Keeps you longer than you want to stay. Costs you more than you wanted to pay. By the way, things that you enjoy will do the same thing. If it's just something you enjoy, there's nothing wrong with this. Even like I think a big danger for us men might be those smartphones. Okay? There's a lot of wonderful things we can do on them. Okay? And you know there's a lot of garbage you can get on those things. And when you're not given to God, boy, that thing pretty soon you're focused on, well, I mean, this isn't, and I don't think, and then pretty soon you're opening doors to things that take you a lot farther than you thought you were ever going to go, keeping you longer than you wanted to stay, costing you possibly everything, your testimony, your integrity. And that the key is every day being given to God. We heard that message last night. How often do we need that renewal? Oh man, do we ever? Do we ever? So this idea of the slippery slope, as soon as we start opening the door to this thing musically, I like it. I like it. Now I've been warned against it, but I like it. And God doesn't mind if I like something, and that's true. But what I like needs to be guided by, first of all, I'm given to Him. In the light of my being given to Him, how do I enjoy those things? So we talked about sin was progressive. Sin was progressive. When I open the door, boy, it just flings open. Just like the illustration of the Mississippi River, when they had set up it started to flood, and they set up the sandbags, and boy, somebody pulled a little bit away to let a little bit of the water out, and it started flowing over, and then pretty soon had opened up so quickly, a lot more than the guy had wanted. Mr. Schrock told that story years ago about a guy who was upstream, and his farm was flooded. And so he went downstream to release some of the water so that his farm could be less flooded. He thought, well, I'm just going to release some of this, and that'll ease mine. So he actually went down and pulled away some of the sandbags, and very quickly it was out of control. It started flowing over, and then it started taking the whole embankment with it and flooded this whole town that had been protected. And it was a real sad story. He didn't mean to. He just wanted his land to empty out a little bit faster. That was flooded upstream. But that's how it is with us. Boy, you start to, no. And it is fine to say, I wonder if I can use this tool the proper way. But don't wonder when you're not given. When you're given to God, you can look at a tool and say, I wonder if I can use this in music, and I wonder how I can use syncopation a proper way. I wonder how I can use this this technique, or this, or moving this here, or this type of song, and then you're ready to make good decisions. When you aren't given to God, when you're given to something else because you're not given to God, that's where you can, hey, I wonder if that's as bad as they all say it is. I wonder if I can. Boy, you take the sandbag away, and then the whole Mississippi is in your yard, okay? And then you don't have any of the music standards that you used to have. Maybe you were a big talker at Fairhaven, then you go somewhere and you have none of those standards, and you say, what happened? What do you mean what happened? There's nothing wrong here. What happened was you opened the door when you weren't given, and the door got flung open far more than it was supposed to. That's the slippery slope of music. All right. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about with the foundation was the amorality of music. The amorality of music. Now, this is a fallacy. This is a fallacy. As in non-morality of music. Some will say there isn't a morality to music. It's whatever words you put with it make it good or bad. Okay? Do you all understand what I'm saying? Some people will say only the words. If you have good words with the music, it's good. If you have bad words with the music, it's bad. The music itself is not good or bad. And they'll say there is an amorality to music, and that is a fallacy. That is a fallacy. And they will say, by the way, the unsaved world never says this. A rock musician says, oh no, I know what my music is capable of. I know that I can play this type of music and loosen people up, loosen up their integrity, loosen them up so that they will do things that they would not normally do, and their mind allows for certain things. It's not the rock stars that would ever say music is amoral. It's the backslidden or unsaved believers. The unbelievers or the backslidden, the people that want Christian music to sound like the world's music. And they'll kind of start like this. They'll go to a piano and they'll say, all right, now these keys on here, I want you to listen to the keys, and because I heard a rock song the other day that had a C in it, the note C. I heard it. But then also a couple days before that I heard a hymn that had a C in it. And so apparently, according to these Christians, some C's are bad and some C's are good because they say rock music is bad. So can you tell me? I'm going to go over to the keyboard. I'm going to play a C here. I'm going to hit it, and you tell me if it's a rock and roll C or a God-honoring C. So here I go. Bing. And of course, ha, 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 ha. How ridiculous. That's just a C. So now, how many notes do I have to blend together before... now, if I take a bunch of notes that aren't good or bad and put them together, if A equals B and B equals C, then A has to equal C. Right? We know that from logic and math. So if that note isn't good or bad, and then another note isn't good or bad, if I place them together, they can't be good or bad. So I don't know what they're talking about where a bunch of notes played and however I want to put them together, it can be good or bad. Sound is neutral. Sound is amoral. Whatever words I put with it, that's when music becomes right or wrong. Can you kind of see how they would take that? And so that's the fallacy of the amorality of music. However, we could use the same thing, right? We could take a palette of different paints. We could have a bunch of different paints on there and some paint brushes. And you say, okay, I saw a picture that was, the person was improperly dressed. It was disgusting. The person wasn't dressed according to biblical principles, and I saw that picture was horrible. But then I saw another picture of a mountain scene with waterfalls and deer. And it was wonderful. The one was disgusting and godless and animalistic. It portrayed human beings acting like nothing more than animals, and that was wrong. And I saw a mountain scene that was beautiful. And so apparently one is bad and one is good. And all I started was these paints. All right. So can I point to a color? Because I think this color was used in both pictures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to and I'm going to point to a color. You tell me which color is good and which color is bad. All right. So you tell me what's an evil color and what's a good color. Like right here. Come on, quickly. Don't think. Just tell me. First thing comes. It's just a color. It's blue. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't. Okay. Same thing. And you say, so if A equals B, if these colors aren't good or bad, if I put two colors together that aren't good or bad, then they have to equal something that's not good or bad. And if I put them on a canvas, they can't equal something that's good or bad. And you say, no, they can. They can certainly equal something that's good or bad by the way they're blended together on a canvas. I remember one time taking a group to an art show. There was this man that had painted scenes from the dunes. Not beach scenes, not of the people swimming over there, just scenes from the dunes, the grasses and the trees and stuff. And I thought, this will be fun. I'm going to take a group over there and see this. His whole collection was on display, and it was free. Baptists love free. So I was going to go over there, and I did not think about the other pieces of art we have to walk by to get to his pieces of art. And so we're walking along, and I just remember one of the ladies that was with us, like up against the wall. It's like, okay, keep moving. No, nothing to see here. Keep moving. Right that way. And people are like, why are you standing that way? What's behind you? All right. Why did she feel like she needed to cover it? Something was not right on the wall. And she's like, okay, keep moving. Right down there. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about, we have to walk past this to get to this. All right. So that is not true. What about a letter? You can say terrible things in words, can't you? So, all right, there's an A. I heard that there was an A written in this vulgar thing, but there in the scripture there's also an A. I saw an A used in a verse. I did. I saw it. So I'm going to hold up various letters, and you tell me which ones are wicked and which ones are good. Okay? So I'm going to hold up this letter. Wicked. I'm like, no, this is actually the one used in the scripture. So it's ridiculous, isn't it? An A, it's not good or bad. A letter is just a letter. So if I could take the letters that aren't good or bad and combine them, then I can't end up with something that's good or bad. Of course, that's ridiculous and doesn't make sense. Music, you can take a chord, you can do different things. Most people who are honest, the rock stars know that music will do things to you. All right? I've heard music that makes me want to go out and help little old ladies cross streets. Sometimes music just makes you feel noble. There's music that it just goes together in such a way that you're like, excuse me, I didn't hear somebody scream for help, but I'm sure somebody's out there asking for help. I'm going to find him and help him. There's music that does that. Anyone who's honest knows that. There's other music, you kind of walk through the store, and there's this beat going, and you're just, and you're just waiting. I've been there. I don't think they play rock as much in stores. When I was a kid, I think I heard more rock and roll. I think they're very toned down, or if anything, in stores now. But I just remember one time walking along, and it kind of built into me the thought that I dare someone to give me the cross look. I will beat you down so fast. It's funny. Music, it's just like, because I am that important. And you might say, ha, 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 but that is anti-God. Yeah. That's why Lucifer was kicked out of heaven. Because it was his honor that was all that was important. I will be like God. I will I will ascend. I will this. I will be like the Most High. I will. That's why Adam and Eve plunged humanity into sin. Because I will make my own decisions. I will decide what's good or bad. I will do what I want to do. And we human beings don't think that's as bad as it is. But it's always bad. It's horrible to say I. And there's music that gets you to the point where I dare someone to get in my face. Because you're gonna hear it, and you'll be lucky if I don't cut you. Or whatever. All right? There's music that does that. And we know. I don't have to hear words. There's music that does that to my body. It does. I've been there. It does that. And we're like, yeah. And you just have that chip on your shoulder, and you feel like pushing somebody. It's like, sorry, Mom. There was this music playing inside. Let me help you up. All right. Music has been called the language of languages. In other words, also it's been called the language of the emotions. The language of the emotions. And this is very true. But not all emotions are good ones. Surely man and his emotions were created in the image of God, but man has fallen, and with him has gone the purity with which he was created. Hate, when directed at sin, is fine. But when it is directed at a brother in Christ, it is sin. Anger is unacceptable, except when the one who is angry is not sinning. Be angry and sin not, right? An emotion like lust, though, is never right. It is an adulteration of God-given emotion. Since music is an emotional language, and since some emotions are wrong for the child of God, then some music is wrong for the Christian. Does anyone have a problem with that line of thinking? That to me makes sense. Does anyone think, does everyone see why that makes sense? It very much makes sense to me. So, they say also that rock music might be justified. The ends justify the means. But music is the words that are placed there are overcome by the music itself. One man said rock and roll is 99% sex. Somebody else said everyone takes it for granted that rock and roll is synonymous with sex. That's a man, Chris Stein, interviewed in People. And then Hall & Oates, an old-time rock group, Hall & Oates, that earlier one, but was by John Oates, being interviewed in Circus Magazine. And then Michael Peace, a Christian rapper, quoted in Youth Magazine, he said, rap is a musical form that they can appreciate. It is an interesting way to communicate with those kids. They love the sound and a strong beat and pulsating rhythm. And if they don't relate, they don't hear the music, then they won't hear the message. So basically, his idea was it's the music that carries the message. If they don't get the music, they don't get the message. The words aren't the message. The music is the message. And he was kind of saying that without realizing kind of what he was saying. He was accidentally being honest. Because most people would say, oh no, it's just whatever words I put with it. And he was saying, no, they got to get the pounding, they got to get the music because that is the message. So let me just go through some ideas right now. What are some elements to watch out for with the wrong type of music? First of all, the rock beat. The rock beat. Now, there are traditions throughout the world that speak to the power of music to exercise specific influence over certain body parts, let alone over the emotions and passions of man. We have the testimony of the electric bass players who confirm the sensual effect of their low-toned instrument is not lost among the particularly female members of the audience. That was Stephen Halpern in Tuning the Human Instrument. With the ears completely blocked, the body still responds to sound. This is because we hear not only with our ears, but with our bodies. Several years ago, my research on the effect of music took an unexpected turn. Shopping in a record department of a large New York store, I became weak and restless and generally ill at ease. The place was vibrating with rock music. Later, I did the obvious thing. I tested the effect of this music. Using hundreds of subjects, I found that listening to rock music frequently caused the muscles in the body to go weak. The normal pressure required to overpower a strong deltoid muscle in an adult male is usually about 40 to 45 pounds. When rock music was played, it lessened from 10 to 15 pounds. So there's a weakening. Okay, so just real simple. I'm not going to get into rock a ton. I don't have time. I think we could study rock for days and days and days. I want to just give some ideas. And then later on, we'll kind of concentrate on what makes music good. And I think bottom line, though, foundational, is music is something that we enjoy, and we can be given to it. We can be given to wrong, or we can be given to good music. Anything we're given to and we're not given to God can be, what was even the word we used earlier, can be perverted in some way. So, okay, so music employs a weak, weak, strong sequence. A weak, weak, strong sequence. Now, the rock music, what it does is it pulses where in the opposite place that good music pulses. I know even you kind of get into it. I know it's wrong, but you kind of go to big basketball games or something, and they'll do the da 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 da. We you know, you're kind of like, that's not right. But you're like, can I get into this a little bit because I'm not at a rock concert and I'm at a basketball game? Okay, I remember being there as a kid more, and you're like, you know, that's like weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, strong. Okay, and what it does is you kind of get into that, and what they do is they pulse in the wrong places. They pulse in the wrong places. The perceptual changes that occur as a result of listening to rock may well manifest themselves in children also as decreased performance in school, hyperactivity and restlessness in adults as decreased work output, increased errors and general inefficiency, reduced decision-making capacity on the job, and a nagging feeling that things just aren't right. In short, a loss of energy for no apparent reason. This has been observed clinically hundreds of times. In my practice, I have found that the academic records of many school children improve considerably when they stop listening to rock music. Have you noticed the huge percentage of children who are diagnosed as having learning disabilities or being hyperactive? Just visiting the homes of our own bus children bear out the validity of the detriment rock music has on the mind and body. John Diamond, in his study, John Diamond's study it also draws some interesting conclusions of great significance for the Christian. When the weakened beat is played, there's a phenomenon called switching. That is, symmetry between the two cerebral hemispheres is lost, introducing subtle perceptual difficulties and a host of other manifestations of stress. The entire body is thrown into a state of alarm. It is as if the body no longer can distinguish what is beneficial and what is harmful. In fact, his body now actually chooses that which is destructive over that which is therapeutic. And that sounds like an addiction, doesn't it? When you think, well, I've seen people on bus that they're smoking and they about lost their lives. They just got out of the hospital because their smoking about killed them, and they're smoking when you talk to them. I've seen them. I'm thinking of a lady in particular that I go in, and if I'm in that house for too long, I know all my clothing will have to be washed when I get home. And it's the joke when you get back to the car, you're like, hey, which of you have been smoking? I smell smoke on somebody. Who is that? You kind of joke because you know you picked it up from the bus route. And so that after a while, you can't choose that which is helpful to you and shun that which is destructive, because the body gets what's called an addiction, right? All right? I think there's different ways you can get addicted. I think sometimes I drink too much pop, where the only thing that can quench my thirst is pop. Water doesn't sound good, nothing sounds good. I got there where I just drink too much pop. There are certain things you got to watch yourself. You can be given over to certain things, and you think, pop? Well, yeah. Music, yeah. Music and different things. We have seen in this illustration in bus kids who come over to our houses or ride in our cars. The classical or Christian music they hear actually gives them a headache, and they crave the rock music to be turned on instead. Titus 1:15, unto the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. But even their mind and conscience is defiled. Okay? That verse there is an interesting verse when applied to proper music. Okay, then another thing about rock music is much repetition. Much repetition. I have a book, a secular book, that talks about, it's like rock music has to pound you into different keys because of the utter monotony. The monotony of that thudding beat just over and over and over again. They have to change keys so much because the monotony just gets to be too much. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. This secular book is saying that. The thudding, the repetition. Now, we like repetition as far as 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. And that we can go through those things. But repetition is hypnotic. When you got to be careful what's being repeated to you. What do they say about propaganda? Anything that's said often enough, loudly enough, after a while becomes truth, or at least perceived as truth. Hypnotism. Rock music is hypnotic. Alec Bloom writes in his book, The Closing of the American Mind, nothing is more singular about this generation than its addiction to music. Since fast rhythm releases into the bloodstream chemicals which excite the organism, such music can literally be said to give a kick. When a young person is used to listening to fast rock music for a number of hours per day, such kicks literally become a form of addiction, and a sense of emptiness is experienced if for some reason the music cannot be listened to for a prolonged period of time. So there's that beat in there. Okay, then just a couple things about worldly sound. Worldly sound. Later, I have a section in my notes on what is worldliness. Do you guys ever remember being there where you say, but I thought God loved the world? God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And then you read in James, it's like friendship with the world is enmity with God. You think, so God can love the world, but I can't? Because my love is impure, and he can love the world and I can't. But it sure sounds like he doesn't love the world. But then over here he loves it so much he gave his son to die for it. You guys obviously know the difference to some degree, but I have a section on that in here just so we can get it super clear. You want to know what worldliness is. That's very important, foundational to music and so many things in the Bible. But real quickly, the worldly sound. For now, a quick definition. The world is that organized system which is anti-God in philosophy, purpose, and practice. And it's the one referred to in James 4:4, where God says, don't love that world. Also in 1 John 2:15 through 17, where it says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. So what is worldliness in music? One thing that's real easy is the place of music. If you go to a nightclub, they don't want John Philip Sousa marches. Okay? That would disrupt the environment. There's a music that fits an environment. Okay? There is a music that fits an environment. And I think that's a huge one right there. That's huge right there. Okay? So even as somebody says, what's wrong with that music? You say, okay, I'm not going to get into eighth notes and dotted 8/16ths and things. First of all, let's talk about what we know. There are types of music that fit types of environments. Okay? If I go in and I'm like, to God be the glory, great things he hath done. And I'm just singing to God be the glory, and we just have hymns going. It's like, what kind of a bar is that? Hopefully it wouldn't be me going into the bar to sing. But if all of a sudden you put in a recording of somebody like, yeah, I like hymns, but after a while they're like, okay, shut that off. Maybe somebody like, yeah, Amazing Grace, I'm play Amazing Grace. And then it's like, okay, we're done. Enough with the hymns. Get the music that fits this environment. Okay, maybe somebody will say, I know that one. But that doesn't fit that environment, does it? There's music that fits an environment. So there's a place of music. There's music that fits a nightclub, a dance hall, lounges, and other places where there are places where the world congregates to feed the flesh. Agreed? Yes. Gentlemen's clubs. Okay, those sick places where men are given. They become sniveling children. That they're given over to something. They become a Samson that gives their strength. And they come out with no strength. They give it all away. They come out with no manliness. They give their strength to women. They give their manliness that God gave to men. Men were given manliness to do good things with. And when I use it to gratify self, I give it all away, and I'm a shell of what God made me to be. All right? I come short of the glory of God that I was created with. The human race was created with way back then. And the same glory that Jesus died to give me back. All right? There are places where the world congregates to feed their flesh. And there's a music that fits those places. All right, and we don't have to go a whole lot further with that. We know what that is. If I go into a nightclub and start playing John Philip Sousa or an old-fashioned hymn, what do you think would happen? It doesn't fit those places, does it? There's going to be, shut that off, and people are going to be upset. Okay? They're there to feed the flesh, and there's a music that goes along with that. There's a music that feeds the spirit, and there's a music that feeds the flesh. All right? So that's number one. There's a place of worldly music. There's a place of worldly music. It corresponds with certain places. Two, there's a sound of worldly music. One magazine reporter was talking about this woman as having one of the easiest and sexiest voices around. So, if a magazine article says this woman has an easy and sexy voice, then there must be something about that voice that you can study and say, okay, when does a voice have that worldly sound? All right? I don't want my wife singing in a sexy voice when she's up in front of the... Because I want her to be my wife. I want her whispering sweet nothings to me, not to the whole church or wherever she's going to go sing. Okay? And it hurts me to think of that woman. It's like, what kind of a man does she have in her life where he's not manly enough to say, hey, you're not going to do that for everyone else. Oh, but it makes money. Okay, never mind. Go ahead and do it then. All right? All right. So there's number one, scooping. Scooping. This is a sliding up to a tone from an attack below its true pitch. You kind of hit a note just below and then you kind of slide into it in such a way that's kind of real sexy. It is one of the most popular methods of producing a dance hall effect. Charles Henderson, well-known arranger of the 1930s and the author of the book How to Sing for Money, explains it this way. Scooping is common practice as a swing effect. Charles Brown, author of The Art of Rock and Roll, calls this practice a vocal slide and states, some people have characterized these vocal slides as sexual utterances. Okay? Another one is the whispery, breathy, airy voice. The whispery, the sultry voice. Okay? And this is found in most contemporary secular and sacred music. It gives a feeling of closeness. If somebody's like speaking, got that whispery voice, it's almost like I can be right in your ear while being up here. All I would need is a microphone to get the sound to get closer to you. And I can be right in your ear, but not right in your ear, but it sounds like I'm right in your ear. Okay? There are three zones in which physical interaction take place, right? We have the social zone, an arm's length. Okay? When you're standing in the lunch line, you don't lean up against the person in front of you, okay? You're just like, hey, you need to be right where I am? Because it seems like you're trying to be in the same spot I'm in. If you need to be right here, maybe I can let you be here and I'll go behind you. Okay? There's the social zone. Then there's the personal zone, which is closer, and there would be family. Family would be in that personal zone. Then there's the intimate zone, which is the 2 inches and closer, where there's and touching. All right? You got to watch dating couples because they want to be this far from each other's faces. You're like, hey, how can you even stand the breath that close together? You know, he's breathing out and you're breathing in the same air. You need to have enough air there for fresh air to get in between your faces, just for safety's sake. But besides that, there's that zone of closeness where I want to be close to my wife, and it's just fun to have that closeness with her. But you got to watch it with everyone else. Well, with a microphone, you can caress that microphone and get real close in there. And then the sound, you say, well, if I'm up here making these slow, you don't know what I'm saying, but with a microphone, I can have that super soft thing, and the effect is that I'm right in your ear, right in your ear. So with a microphone, it's supposed to amplify the sound for satisfactory hearing. Its purpose is not to gain and project intimacy. Observe entertainers and note how the microphone is clutched and caressed as it is held virtually touching the lips of the performer. The sound of the voice that then gives the feeling that the listener and performer are about 1 inch apart in the intimate zone. Henderson, in How to Sing for Money, writes, through the agency of the microphone, the accent is on intimacy, where I can get right in your ear with that sound. The book of Proverbs, we have that idea in Proverbs 5, for the lips of a strange woman drop as doth an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. Remove thy way far from her, come not nigh the door of her house. All right? It is obvious that this music can be worldly and sexual and sensual apart from whatever words are being said. Remember in Exodus 32, when they thought they heard the sound of war? It is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is the voice of them that cry for being overcome. It is the voice of singing that I hear. Again, it sounded violent, and it didn't sound like it was a joyful sound. Before Moses and Joshua could get even close enough to the camp of Israel to hear the actual words of the lustful songs they were singing, the sound of the music told them something was wrong. So again, they were not close enough to hear the words, but the sound told them something wasn't right. The sound told them something was wrong. Okay. All right, I'm going to have to jump into a different section. I'm going to have to finish this up possibly with a different section, and we'll have to get into lyrics. Lyrics. What would be wrong about the world's lyrics? And I don't have time to finish those today, obviously. But again, hopefully you guys are getting some of these ideas down, and we can keep a lot of it simple. We don't have to be real technical when we talk to somebody about what makes bad music bad. Don't try to get into the technicalities of it. There's a lot of obvious things that are out there. So jump into those things and just say, first of all, how is your heart toward the things of God? Do you have that attitude of, I'm interested in what pleases Him, or I'm interested in, why can't I have what I want? How much can I have and still be right? And why can't I be happy? Okay, that's when music, you can't have a discussion with that person. Don't even try to pull out eighth notes and syncopation. Don't even try it. It's a waste of time. You've got to make sure that heart is right, and then you can have good conversations about music. And then you guys keep your hearts right. Keep your hearts right. And then this area will never get you. Keep your hearts right. Stay clean and pure, and you'll be a big help to a lot of people. All right, you're dismissed.